Kalimera, kalispera, kalinichta. Today's show really doesn't need too many words for the introduction. I'm just going to let some super sounds do all the talking. Squaddies, it's Monday Madness. Let's rock and roll.
Into Kai Havertz, chest it down, Martinelli shot, deflection! Arsenal have broken the deadlock on 86 minutes, and it's Gabriel Martinelli with the goal! The substitute, Gabriel Martinelli! He wasn't fit enough to start, but he scored what could be the winner here! His deflected shot beats Ederson! And Arsenal are a goal to the good on 87 minutes.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad. I'm not sure there's been a better Monday than this Monday in a long time. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another live edition of Highbury Squad. We are already 200 people in, and I sure hope you enjoyed today's introduction. I'm pretty sure my podcast brother from another mother did, Mr. Super Kevin Campbell.
Hey, Squaddies. Good to see you in the house. After Super Sunday. So, you know what? Let's go. At ease, Squaddies. At ease. Let's do it.
So usually it's Super Kev, who you can see actually is here in all of his glory, right? And we are missing David Hillier, but, oh, that's my mum's mobile going off. It's probably, all the mess. Oh, that's the Stoke City. It's a Stoke City text coming in for mum, Super Kev. Don't tell Ty. Super David Hillier is on dial-up, it seems, Kev. His internet is actually worse than yours ever was, so we're just waiting for him to dial back in, and as soon as he does, we'll get rolling. But why waste time? Almost 300 of you in live chat. You know how Monday Madness starts now. Boys and girls, squaddies, ladies and gentlemen, all of those joining us, aliens and everyone in between. Super Kev's kickoff. Let's rock and roll.
So, I've got to paint a picture. I've got to paint the picture of where I was covering the game. Where all you gooners were at the game, or you were in the pub or at home, in the comfort of your own home. I was deep in Manchester City territory at the Etihad campus in their Studio One, covering the game with Paul Dickoff and David James.
Ooh.
Let me tell you. And we obviously I'd done the Community Shield. We won that. And they said to me, we've got to make sure you come back because we've got to beat you. So that's what I was welcomed to at the start. So obviously it was prediction time. I heard it all. I heard 3-1 like last year. I heard 3-0 like last year. I heard 2-0. Nobody gave Arsenal a chance. I said I'd take a draw because Saka's not playing. But I said I desperately want to beat you because the onus is on us. But I think we're going to miss Saka. Well, I've got to say, we did start off a little bit shaky. And Raya, I'm sure, had our hearts in our mouths, didn't he? With some of the time he was taking. But obviously we find out after that the manager said to him, you make sure you take your time because I don't want you to waste the ball. And what did he do? He had to waste the ball at times because the pressure on him was so great. But once we got past that, I thought we came into the game really strong. We limited City to nothing. And I've got to say, second half, we just got better and better and better. The changes, the substitutions were great. Great to see Martinelli come on. I think Trossard wasn't quite right. He had a little problem with his hamstring. But everything seemed to go right for us. We got a slice of luck for the goal. But you know what? We were the better team. And not many times you could say that against City. We were the better team. The 12th man showed up, which were the fan base. We beat Man City after, 12 games we hadn't beaten them. The 13th game, we win. So, do you know what? You could imagine how chipper I was after the game, after all their large-in-it predictions. But a job well done. And I've got to say, spine of the team, defense, midfield, and attack, grafted their heart out. Wasn't pretty sometimes, but it didn't need to be. We needed to get the win, and we got it. So, do you know what? Fair play to Mikel Arteta, fair play to all the squad, and fair play to you fans. It's the world against us fans. I'm telling you now, this man down there will tell you what it's like. It's us against the world. Nobody wants to give us credit. And I'll save that referee till the end because I am not happy about him.
I like that, Super Kev. We'll save the negative stuff towards the end because there's so many positives to take. I do think you're being a little bit gracious to Raya, but we will get stuck into that. Welcome to Squad Central. It's been way too long. Kids, don't say I don't do nice things for you. It's the Tuesday-ish club on a Monday. Mr. David Hillier, who's also won it all. Welcome to Squad Central.
Yeah, pleased to be back. Yeah, sorry, I've had to go on a mobile phone just to get it going because Virgin Media have let me down tonight. So hashtag Virgin, your connection's shit. I've had to go mobile. Apologies for the delay in the start. Kev, great testimonial for the game. I was actually in a better position than you, mate. I was sitting at the top tier, looking down on that pitch, listening into those fans before the game singing North London Forever. The hairs on the back of my neck were standing up. I knew it was something special. I had an Irish guy in front of me who sang from the first minute till the last minute. He was a bit annoying because he kept standing up and getting in the way and I couldn't see the pitch. But I didn't have the heart to say anything to him because he was having the time of his fecking life. You're bang on about the 12th man. It was just a great place to be. It was in contrast to the Tottenham game, which you'd have expected to have had that atmosphere. But I think because of the emotions involved and the pressure on the players in a derby, it was released in this game. And it wasn't the best game in the world. I mean, I've seen much better football watching Bournemouth against Brentford. But I've got to say, everyone turned up. In that first period, they was under pressure, a bit shaky, like you said. Raya had his instructions, and you know what it's like. The manager tinkers with a team the week before, and you're not quite sure because you're doing different things. But they rode the storm. Jorginho and Declan Rice in that middle worked their absolute socks off, getting in position, protecting the balls into Haaland. He didn't have a sniff. I don't even know if he was there. I saw an interview at the end of the game, but I didn't actually see him on the pitch. And I was just really proud of the togetherness of the whole place, not just the team, just the whole place was, made it a game, made it special. The substitutions, we can go on about them all day long, can't we? 4 subs involved in the goal. Martinelli coming on. And, yeah, I agree. Trossard wasn't in the game the first half, but in my commentary I said he's playing against the toughest right-hand side in the Premier League. Kyle Walker is in exceptional form. He offers you out every time you've got the ball. He says, "Come and run at me then. I'll take you on for pace." And for an old fella, mate, he's still got it. But when Martinelli came on, we saw him pay more attention to the danger on the wing, and that opened out the space between him and Ruben Diaz in the centre of defence. So that opened up little options, and I think Eddie Nketiah up front, when he got involved, we didn't get him involved enough, because every time he got on the ball, he bought time for the midfield to get involved with it. There's loads of issues we're going to talk about. I know. I mean, Kovacic, the 2 tackles. In any other world, that's 2 bookings. But we know Michael Oliver's just been over to the Emirates and got a few bags of sand in his bank from doing a game over there. So he obviously doesn't want to break no hearts, does he? So yeah, I'm going to just say it as it is tonight. I think that the team just pulled together and were an absolute team. And it was all summed up in Pep's interview after. 2 good teams, and the best team came out on top. It was a close game. There were some close calls, but in fairness, to be there involved in that atmosphere and environment was something special. It was back to the days of when we was going for the Invincibles, and when we was winning 1-0, and when they sung that song at the end, it just brought back memories of when you or Righty would have banged one in and nicked us the game after we'd grafted our bollocks off all evening to keep us in the game. And that's the memories it brought back. I was jumping up and down with the fans. It was hard to contain me.
Brilliant kickoff from Super Kev and also David Hillier. And I put this picture up, by the way, for those of you listening on audio. It's David Hillier and Super Kevin Campbell with Super Keeper, one of the best keepers ever in the history of the universe, Mr. David Seaman. Was this one after the League Cup, guys? Was this the League Cup, this one?
No, I think that was the league.
Was that the league?
I think that was Highbury. Yeah, that was after Man United. That was.
Was it after Man United or Coventry? Because we
no, Man United Coventry was the afternoon, wasn't it?
Oh, Coventry was the one when we actually got the trophy, wasn't it? That was that the one where Righty scored the hat-trick?
No, Smudger. Righty weren't at the club then, bud.
I saw Righty on Saturday as well after the game, and it was just lovely to. I've got some favourites. You're up, well, you are there. You're there. You're in gold position. You know that. You got the gold medal. But because we go back to 12,
we go back way back, mate. We go back to the babies.
The Fourfield.
Yeah, Fourfield.
All them teams back in the day.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was lovely.
This is what I want for this team. I want them to experience what you guys have. Winning it all, winning the big one, being champions, and it feels like there's something brewing at the Arsenal, and mental has always been an issue for us. It's been our Achilles heel for a number of years now. And despite how well the team has done under Mikel Arteta, we didn't close the deal when we were trying to qualify for the Champions League, and didn't close the deal, last season. However, it seems like we do come back and show evidence of maturing and growing up and strength. When we missed out on the Champions League, everyone wrote us off, didn't they, guys? That we would fall apart, we wouldn't come back the next season, we wouldn't be strong. And, we went and mounted a challenge to one of the best teams that the universe has ever seen. And we broke a lot of ducks along the way, beating Tottenham home and away. There were a number of those ducks that were, pleasant to Arsenal fans. And it seems like this season, beating Everton away is something we've struggled with. But beating Manchester City after years of failing to do so shows another level of maturity. You guys have been there, and tonight I love it because we get to cross those white lines and go inside the dressing room. Super Kev, for me, and we're going to get into the players and all that jazz, kids, don't you worry about it. I think this is the most mature professional performance since Mikel Arteta has been manager of the Arsenal. Am I exaggerating, or do you agree with me?
I think for the league, 100%. Obviously, we beat City in the cup, and that was a really good performance. But we know that was a one-off. This is where you earn your stripes in the league, and it was immense. The fact of the matter is, Soph and Hills, this is what I will say. At the Emirates, we have been a bit leaky. We haven't kept clean sheets. Crazy teams have come there and scored 1-2 goals and pegged us back. But the professionalism of this one, not playing gung-ho, being in the game, making sure we limit them as well. I just think the additions that we brought in, one in particular in the middle of the pitch, Jorginho playing, brought that experience to it that helped Declan, I thought. And you know what? What a good substitution at the right time to bring on Thomas Partey as well. He just started to run the game when he came on. But everybody played their part, I've got to say. Maturity, we're growing as a group. And I think the fans are starting to understand what's being asked. So that's what I really do. I really believe the fan base is starting to understand we've got to win ugly sometimes. And you know what? We don't need to be playing our best now. But if we're not playing at our best and we can beat Man City, I know they're two players light, but they're still a great team. If our growth and development follows the trend, we've got to win the league this season, Soph, and I'm saying it now. We have to win the league.
David, you've been in teams, you've played under one of the most demanding managers in English football history. No excuses, no nonsense. You and Kev experienced that, but it also yielded you guys a lot of glory, and you experienced stuff that a lot of players don't. Talk me through this type of game where maybe, you want to play the sexy football. However, to really execute, seemed to me like, I know we lost against Lens, but it felt like Arteta had been plotting this match since last season. Did you get those vibes? And what's your take on the maturity of this Arsenal team? Yes, there was no Rodri and De Bruyne and Jack Grealish, but you can only beat who's in front of you. And we also argue a lot that Man City's 11 can beat anyone's starting 11. What's your take on the maturity side of things?
Well, first of all, I'd like to address the situation of you've got great players in the team and you've got good players, all right? And a team is what it says. There's 4 letters, TEAM. Everybody has a part to play, right? And whether you've got superstars in the team like Kev and Raya scoring the goals and me just grafting in the midfield, they can't do their job unless I do mine properly. However, whatever way you look at it. And that team has got players in it like it, right? So you've got Ben White at right back. He's not a right back, but he's got to do a job. He don't look comfortable when players run at him, but he does the job. And he done the job at the weekend. Jorginho came in humble enough to know that he's not going to be there when Thomas Partey is fully fit and playing every week. But he came in, no questions asked of him, gave everything for the team. You've got Eddie Nketiah up front. He's not a superstar. He's not the best player in the Premier League, but he gives 120% for the team. The 4 subs that came on, 2 of them are first choice picks for me when they're fit. Yeah, Martinelli and Partey. They didn't care whether they came on as subs or not. They came on to do something for the team, to play their part. And that's what Arteta's got right at the moment. That everybody is humble. They all have a part to play. They have all got so much respect for each other on the pitch. And that just resonates. And I think that's what the crowd pick up on. And I think that's why this year, the crowd more than ever understand it's a mix of players that win a Premier League. When Leicester won it, you look at their midfield. They weren't superstars. They was grafters in there, and they fed Vardy, and they fed Mahrez, but they all revel in the glory at the end of the year, and that's what it's about. It's about backing your mates up, doing what you can do to make your friends, which they are, have the best day that they can have. And I think everybody in that team is doing that for each other. Jorginho run 60 yards to grab Martinelli when he scored that goal.
It's about time he ran.
Yeah, he doesn't need to. He gets in the right position. But in a team that's got prima donnas and that, then players are looking there thinking, no, he's in the team and I'm not. He's getting the glory. No one cares about that at Arsenal. They don't care whether who scores the goals, who bangs them in. They're as happy for each other as they are for themselves. And I think that's what Arteta has put into that team. He's made them believe that. And by doing that, you level everybody out. Regardless if someone's on 200 grand a week or 100 grand, it don't make no difference. They're all appreciated as much as each other. When I got in the first team at Arsenal, I was appreciated as much as David O'Leary, who'd been there for 600 games. And the gaffer treated me like that. And that's why I was able to function and do my job and accept this is just what I do in the team. And when I look around that team, they've got a decent balance. There's still improvements to be made in the games. Like Kev said, we need to focus on, not leaking things at the back. But the way they play now is different. So they're going to give opportunities to opposition because they want to draw them right in. They want to suck them right in and then hit them when they got the space. But for me, it's the team dream that's working at the moment, and it's going right through the crowd. And it's, people say about, it's £90 a ticket to watch a football match. Boy, if you was there Sunday, that was 90.
Everybody. It's cheap.
Okay, so let's get stuck into some nitty gritty here. And I love the 5-star accolades you legends are giving. But I also want to talk a little bit of reality, right? You're talking about the atmosphere. The atmosphere in the first half in the stadium wasn't great. And the reason why it wasn't great was because the goalkeeper took the crowd out of the game. Now, David, you were there. Kev was among Manchester City people on Manchester City television. I had a lot of friends texting me and sending me videos. And from how I was watching, David Raya's performance in the first half sucked the life out of the stadium. Now, I can't wait.
Sitting, because they weren't sitting in front of me. Because I'll tell you what, the 400 people sitting in front of me were loving the game. So I've got to disagree with you a little bit there, because yes, I agree it made it a little bit tense and a bit edgy. But I've got to say, the atmosphere in the stadium, I had butterflies from the start to the end. I felt sick. I said to Russ Hargreaves, this is like when my missus had kids. I'm sitting there in the waiting room, waiting for something to happen, waiting to get the call. And I felt the atmosphere was, maybe it was that Irish guy in front of me who didn't give up.
I think it was. I think he'd had a few pints, and maybe because there are a lot of folks that have written to me asking me about Raya. And I don't have an agenda against Raya. I don't understand what some Arsenal fans just don't get. We all have opinions, okay? And my opinion is that Raya sucked in the first half. I think he put the defence in a difficult position. He passed the ball out to Declan Rice, who got fouled by Kovacic, and Declan Rice could have got injured. And that was the moment where we felt like second yellow, red card. He was poor. He was nervous. And I think it's okay to say that out loud. Now, in the second half, there were adjustments. And I think Mikel Arteta deserves a shit ton of credit, seeing as the algorithms are off tonight because David Hillier is off. We can swear left, right and centre. I think that what he did he showed at half time what a manager he's evolving into, because we came out in the second half, for me, totally different. And he played differently. Go on, Kev, you wanted to jump in real quick.
Yeah, I just wanted to say the actual pass that he played to Declan Rice when Kovacic done him was a fine pass. There was one pass before that, Soph, where we give it to him and Kovacic tackled Declan Rice and they were on top of us. So Manchester City was setting the trap and we were falling into it. But again, Mikel Arteta admitted after the game that he wanted Raya to play a certain way, to have the confidence to take his time and play sort of late in. And it makes us nervous, Soph. It does. It really does make us nervous. I agree. But I think it was for maybe 20, 25 minutes. We were like rocky. And then I think we adjusted. And then we were all right after that.
David, what's your take on Raya's distribution? Because of course, you know, I thought that Mikel Arteta threw Ramsdale under the bus in his post-game press conference. And keep coming, everyone. Keep coming with the hits of I'm a Ramsdale lover, and you know, because we've had Nick Ramsdale on the show. We've had a lot of people on this show, and we've lauded them and we've ripped them to shreds as well. Let me tell you,
also.
And we love, and
we got love for everyone at Arsenal.
Exactly. But I can't help but say what I see. And what I saw was the ball distribution, the thing that he was brought in to do, he was very poor at. And in the second half, I'm not being funny. I said on the show last week, David, that Raya hasn't really been tested. Manchester City, the mighty Manchester City, had 4 shots on goal in this entire match. And I don't want to hear that Raya's the reason why we're keeping clean sheets. There is one reason why this team is the great wall of the Arsenal at the back. And that is because of Saliba and Gabriel. And they deserve all the credit. And Mikel Arteta did throw Ramsdale under the bus at the end in his press conference. And I thought he was protecting Raya with the comments that he made. But for me, all of this lauding needs to go to Saliba and Gabriel. David, what's your take?
Well, let me take you back to back in the day when our defence, David Seaman didn't make 2 saves in hardly any games because we had Baldy and Adams in front of him. Yet Dave Seaman was a hero, and he still is a hero, and he always will be. I didn't see the comments that Arteta made after the game, and I know Ramsdale played 80 games in a row non-stop, and yeah, listen, everybody, I love Ramsdale. Ramsdale's wicked. It's the manager's choice. The manager's decided to put Raya in, and he's asking him to play away. It's almost like that rope-a-dope thing with Ali, isn't it? I'm gonna sort of like, I'm gonna just swagger and sway until you just get in the right position, and then I can get past you. And we beat 3 players. That's how they've had to play against Man City. They ain't got to do that every week. Because they're not going to get up. They're not up against a team like that every week, so it won't be that much pressure on him. And you've got to put yourself in Raya's shoes. He's obviously feeling the criticism that his teammate is having as well. And that's a big burden to carry. No one wants to be in a team at the expense of someone else and be getting shit for it, because he don't pick himself for the team. Arteta's picking him. So he's just got to go in and do the best job he can. And I think it was difficult for him in the first half. Yes, he did put the team under pressure a couple of times. But so did Declan Rice when he kicked the ball out in the first few seconds and past Zinchenko, and everything dropped. And then he headed a ball back to Zinchenko that Zinchenko let go out for a corner. That all those points can be a dangerous point against Manchester City. But I don't hear anyone digging out Zinchenko. Zinchenko, for me, he didn't have a great game, but he tried his hardest. He worked as hard as he could. He gave the ball away as much as anybody else did. He gave the ball away more than Raya did in that game. So, in the scheme of things, they're only players trying to put out what the manager wants them to do. But collectively as a team, when anyone makes a mistake, there's no blame. There's no cussing. There's no arms going down like, oh shit, why aren't I getting? Why was that a bad pass? It's just like, listen, eyes on the game, yeah, unlucky, next one. And that's what they've got. So they don't pick the team. The manager picks the team. So if anyone wants to get a beast in, give it to Arteta. And he's now gone from the apprentice to the sorcerer. So I'm sure he can take.
Come on, man. You can't anoint him yet. He's got to win a major trophy
I'm just talking about in this game because
okay, in this game.
He's give the cones back.
He talked about him being the ball carrier, but now he's in a different position. It's just a little anecdotal thing that I used on Sunday, and I thought I'd use it again tonight.
I like that. Very good, very good, very good indeed. Let's talk about very good, Super Kev. I mean, I think they've gone beyond
I think they're
very
better than
good.
very good. They're better than
I
very
think
good. So.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that these two are top 3 centre-back pairing in Europe, let alone the Premier League. And I love this picture in particular. And for those listening on audio, it's Gabriel and Saliba walking out of the Emirates, and all the flames and fires are behind them, because these two are absolute fire. In particular, Saliba. I'd like to take you guys to this stat, which is absolutely ridiculous. William Saliba, let me clear this real quick. 100% of his duels won. 97. Kev, I mean, the numbers are just there.
Passing, wasn't it?
Yep.
And what was that? 100%.
The duels and passing.
And 100% for something else. Listen,
it's cut off.
The guy, because I can't see it. The guy he's immense, and he's immense. And you know, if we have him last season at the end of the season, who knows? Who knows whether we become champions? Because him and Gabriel are the rock that Arsenal must be built on. As David Hillier mentioned, Adams and Bold. When you've got Adams and Bold, thank you, aerial duels, Adams and Bold, you've got your rock at the back, the platform to build. You've got your fullbacks who can fly forward, who can do whatever, but you need 2 centre-halves who can complement each other. Saliba is the reader of the game. He's silky, he's powerful, he's quick. And Gabriel is just the aggressive, tough, attacking centre-back, which is what you need to complement each other. And let's be honest, everybody on here and in chat and who's going to be listening, Erling Haaland, I know he was playing against Rob Holding. He bullied Rob Holding into submission at the Etihad. And he wanted to do the same thing in this game. Community Shield, he tried it, he got nothing. Second time now, he's come up against these two. What is it, the XG? 0.00. Now you're talking. Now you are talking. Now, with these two at the back, and I remember Gabriel not starting a few games at the start of the season, because you remember, everyone was up in arms. But it was only because Zinchenko weren't there while trying to get Thomas Partey in, etc., etc. But as soon as it started to get serious, Gabriel came back, and we really have to build Arsenal on the back of these two. We have to. If you keep these two together and you keep them fit, we stand a good chance of winning the league.
They were so good. And I know, David, that people are going to talk about that midfield missing from Manchester City. But like I said at the top of the hour, they still have players that a lot of pundits, media and fans laud as being able to beat anyone's starting 11. You guys have mentioned Tony Adams, Steve Bold. You can go, as far back as well to Sol Campbell, Martin Keown. Just Arsenal Football Club was always renowned for having strong defenders. And then, we kind of went through a period where we had no backbone, we had no spine. And now it feels like there's a spine that has developed from Saliba to Gabriel to Declan Rice in the centre, and then going forward to Gabriel Jesus. When you were watching the game yesterday, are you surprised as an ex-player the ease of which Saliba reads the game and plays the game in particular?
No, I'm not, because he's got a player next to him. Like Kev mentioned the word complement, right? They have to complement each other. If you go back to Man U when they was dominant, Bruce and Pallister, yeah? Bruce was a brute. He'd go in, he'd put his foot into everyone. Pallister would just feed off of that. Think, I'm going to let him go in. I'm just going to tidy up round the back. I'm going to pick up any runs that go in. And if you watch the game yesterday, that's what he does. He gives Gabriel the freedom to go and play your game. Go and put your foot in. Make your last-ditch challenges. Because I know the way you play. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover the back of you a little bit. I've got enough pace to get there. so I can leave a little bit of space. And again, tactically, I think looking at Haaland's game, right? He didn't play the same game as he normally plays, because he's always normally looking to get in behind. We only saw, I think, once or twice, and that was when Saliba just bossed him and knocked him back down to the ground and said, "Nah, mate, I'm not falling for that shit. You're not knocking me over," right? But early on in the game, Haaland was being asked to go short an awful lot and to let Foden try and make the run between Ben White and Saliba, right? So because I think Pep tactically was worried about Haaland not getting in the game. So he's tried to play some sort of chess game where he's getting Foden now. He wants to draw Saliba over to cover Gabriel. And he knows that if Ben White's stuck wide a little bit with Guardiola, then there's going to be a space for Foden to slip in.
There's a
And
crease.
in the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes, Foden made about 10 runs and didn't get one delivery go in there because of Eddie Nketiah and Odegaard not allowing Bernardo Silva, who was sitting deep, to play that pass. Right? Kovacic can't play that pass. Right? He's just going to go in and dog it out in there. And it didn't work for Man City, but it also kept Haaland out of the game. So the little sniffs that he had in the game, Saliba just picked him off. It was easy because he couldn't play his own game, and Saliba was cruising, and Gabriel, you know, he made his overhead kick clearance and all of that like he does, and he threw his body in front of things. Ben White did too, got himself in great positions. We had the clearance off the line earlier. Them things are going to happen against Man City, but collectively as a team, they and whether it was a management tactical thing from Arteta, kind of knowing what Pep's going to do, because now he's in a little bit fear of Arsenal. He's not got Rodri in there who can really pull the strings, so he's a little bit held back. He tried to mix it up. I think Arteta knew what he'd try and do, and we just ate up their play. The only opportunities they got were from our mistakes where we was trying to play that way at the back. But you're going to get that against City. But it was from where I was sitting, it was so obvious that City had changed their game. It was so obvious. Silva did not go forward until the second half, and then that's when I got a little bit worried, because when he gets in between the lines of the midfielder and the defence, and he starts picking the ball up, because you can't get the ball off Silva, even if you're a yard away from him. You're not going to intercept his pass. He's going to jink it round you. But they kept him back in front of it. They left him back in front of his back in front of his central defenders. You just stay back there, mate, because you're little and you ain't going to do nothing from back there. And we played the game well. We sussed them. The man Arteta's got to take plenty of credit for that. Yeah,
he was plotting and planning, you could tell. I mean, it was brilliant. Right, 740 of you in live chat. You know what to do. Kiss it, nut it, like it. He showed up, Super Kev. I haven't heard from him since yesterday. In fact,
I haven't either.
I invited Mr. Kyle Campbell to come pop in and give us the City side for a few minutes. But no, I think he's just ignored. I think he's put me on silent on WhatsApp. But look, he's definitely shown up in chat,
which is good of him.
Which is good of him. So well done. We'll be doing a show this Friday, so look out for that, guys. Okay, so don't make Kev Brockett. Hit the like button. 740 of you in live chat. I think Vesper could play in goal for the Arsenal. Forget Ramsdale and Raya. And of course, Vinny hit that like button. He's smashing Hillier's head in right now. And it is great analysis. This is what I love about having these two on. I always learn something. You know, I'm not a tactician. I love football and I love talking about it. But I also like to learn a lot too. So another thing I want to talk about is a player who doesn't really get a lot of the headlines, Super Kev and David. But he's a player that Arsenal fans really love a lot. And I wanted to get your take because we talked about him last week a little bit. And for some reason, Gareth Southgate doesn't rate him to be in the England squad. Kev, I mean, the nutmeg on Doku, forget that. Benjamin White, talk to me I know I rave about Saliba and Gabriel, and I'm a disciple of the two, but we've loved Benjamin White since day one. I thought he was brilliant on Sunday. I thought he was absolutely brilliant, and he didn't have Saka in front of him, and it didn't affect him. It didn't affect his mental. He just played the game. Talk to me.
I'll tell you what, Soph. He had Jesus in front, who I tell you what, he could get through some work. And he's one of those players you could give him the ball and leave him with the ball because he can do some special things. One thing I will say about, and it was his birthday, wasn't it? It was his birthday.
It was.
So, you know, happy birthday to Benjamin White. What I will say is this. David Hillier really made a good point earlier on. He said he's not great when people are running at him. And when you saw Manchester City adjust and bring Doku on, he didn't get any change out of Zinchenko on one side. And then they switched him over to their left, which is our right. And then I thought, here we go. Let's have a look what happens with Ben White. Ben White bodied him. He pocketed him. And that just shows you the trajectory of Ben White. He's grown. He's a centre-half who's playing right back, but I think he's grown in that position. He really has. And do you know what? So, is it that Gareth Southgate doesn't rate him, or is it Ben White doesn't rate Gareth Southgate? I think it's more of the latter. If I'm honest with you, I think it's more of the latter because he was in the squad and then he went, I'm going home. I'm going home. Do you know what I mean? I'm off because I play for the Arsenal. We're top of the league and I can't get anywhere near this team. I'm going home. So I think it's Ben White not rating him. And Ben White much prefers Mikel Arteta and the Arsenal than working with Gareth Southgate, which it happens. It really does happen. Ben White has been outstanding. And remember, the clean sheet, Soph, is for the goalkeeper and the back four. That's their hat trick.
Mm-hmm.
So Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, Gabriel, Saliba, and Ben White and Raya. That's the 6 players who played at the back. That's their hat trick, Soph. And Ben White, as I said, he's going from strength to strength in our team. I thought the way he played, not being gung-ho, going forward and joining in when he could, but not being gung-ho, not leaving any gaps, it made us so much more solid. It really did. It made us so much more solid because you have to respect the space against Manchester City because the moment you leave that space and you turn that ball over, they will be into that space and then you find yourself 1-0 down. And then you open up again, that's when they take you to the cleaners. But we played disciplined, we played smart, and we took Man City down, which was brilliant.
Kev, I've got to jump in there. When you talk about players playing disciplined, right? Disciplined is as much about knowing your own limitations as a player and not doing things that you can't do that will affect the team. Well, I remember Stefan Schwartz. I was trying to do something really fucking technical in training one day, and he come up to me, tapped me on the shoulder, he went, Dave, he went, do what you can do, not what you want to.
Wow.
Like that, right? And it was, I took it the wrong way, first of all. I thought, what do you mean? I'm allowed to try things and that. And then he said, no. He said, if you just do what you can do all the time and you do that well, you'll be a much better player for it.
Yeah.
So he wasn't trying to be funny or nothing like that, you know? And that's what Ben White does, right? He knew that he weren't going to win a foot race with Doku on that side. So what did he do? He said, look, I know maybe you ain't got the skills to beat me, so I'm going to give you 2 yards. I'm going to drop off you a bit. I can read what you're going to do, and I'll put you in my pocket that way. I haven't got to bully you off the ball. I ain't got to get in front of you. And yeah, there was a nice nutmegs and things like that. But they're just the little bits he can add to his game. And 100%, he got custard pied by England when he went out there, and he's thinking to himself, I'm going to spend my whole summer away from my family to sit on a bench. I ain't going to do that. And I respect that about him. He's his own man. he's publicly said he's not really interested in football outside of when he's playing football and when he's got that shirt on. And that's good enough for me. That's absolutely good enough for me, because he puts everything in to that badge when he's playing. And that's all you can ask from him. And so, and they do that around the team. No one takes unnecessary risks to put their fellow teammates under pressure. And they don't try things that they can't do. And because they're doing that now, they're maximizing everything in that side. They're just running clean. It's like driving a car doing 4,000 revs in it, when if you drop them down to 2,500, you'll get a nice smooth ride, you'll get the best fuel consumption, you'll get the best out of that machine. And that's what Arsenal are doing. No one's taking chances, no one's stepping out of their remit. Everyone understands that everyone's got a part to play and everybody's got a different skill and they bring something else, and everyone's got as much respect for the big stars and the little stars. Like I said at the beginning, don't matter what you're on, no one's looking at the cars in the car park anymore. No one's looking at this, that, and the other. No one's concerned with that. They're all concerned about making their teammates' game better. And you've only got to walk around that stadium. There's a quote from Geordie Armstrong that says his job in the team was to play well so that his teammates could do the best that they could do. And he made a career out of that. And if everybody in the team does that, which is what they're doing, which is what Ben White does, that's fine.
You've got a chance.
And he looks like he's cruising. And to me, it makes him look a better player. It looks him in much more control of himself. He's in complete control of his emotions, because he never gets involved in any shit. And all right backs do. You've only got to look at Kyle Walker at the end of the game. He couldn't even walk off the pitch without getting involved in some trouble. And he's an experienced player.
Ben White was cheekily laughing a lot. Kevin and I have talked about it. Benjamin has a little bit of the dark arts. He's so good at it, and not a lot of our players are, but there is something about him where he understands the shithousery in the moment. And I agree with you. One of the reasons why, the New England Patriots won 6 Super Bowls, Kev, Bill Belichick's philosophy, just do your job. Yeah. And David hit the nail on the head there. And Ferguson had that, didn't he? Like, he had certain players like Phil Neville, these utility players, or these, second tier players, if you like, where they complemented the greatness around them and they just did their job. I think that's a really interesting one. Okay, let's move on a little bit here, because I think the manager deserves credit where credit is due. And you touched on it at the beginning on your kickoff, David, and Super Kev also mentioned it. Substitutions, Mikel Arteta has been a little bit criticised of late, but also got it right a lot. He was criticised at Tottenham, criticised a little bit, but there's a picture that a Manchester City fan posted, and I have to put this up because it's absolute gold, because it came back to bite them in the arse. Let me get rid of this comment real quick. They think they're the Avengers, is what it says. They think they're the Avengers, but they really were and did become the Arsenal Avengers on Sunday. I just absolutely love how this came back to bite them in the arse. Tomiyasu, another player who is a little unsung, and this season seems to be playing with a little bit of an edge. He looks leaner, he looks fitter, faster. We know he suffered from injuries. I absolutely love this moment. And a Arsenal fan in Japan, Kazu, who you can find on the old Twitter, now known as X, put this image together, much like our good friend Gunnerballs, of the moment of the header. 4 subs, amazing, David. You were there, you were commentating on the game, from Tomiyasu to the goal scorer, Martinelli, to Thomas Partey, who I think should be starting in midfield when fit with Declan Rice. Talk me through it a little bit. Talk me through that moment and the 4 subs and how they changed the game. And I think Martinelli especially changed the game. Yeah,
the first substitution was at half-time, and it wasn't unexpected, to be honest. We discussed at half-time, Trossard hadn't really got in the game. I wasn't aware of him having a little hamstring injury, like Kev said, or maybe carrying something. But he hadn't got in the game, and he drifted inside a few bits. And then Martinelli come on, and I've got to say, for 10 minutes he was electric. And then he didn't really take much part in the game for the next 25. Kyle Walker kind of opened himself out, went a bit closer to him. All Martinelli could really do was play the ball inside because they doubled up on him. But then that gave the space to other players to get in the game. So it's not necessarily just what you do when you got the ball. It's the effect you have on players' minds. And up until that point, we hadn't really moved their defence around. Now, they made some substitutions as well. John Stones came on. I think Nunes came on as well. And John Stones went and sat in front of the midfield, and then they pushed Silva on. And I got a little bit worried about that. But I shouldn't have been. Because Kyle Walker was so worried about Martinelli that he couldn't even stick by the side of Diaz anymore, even though John Stones was in there, because Stones was trying to be a player. Now, instead of him sitting deeper like Silva was and offer that little bit of help to the central defenders, he weren't doing that. He pushed on a tiny bit as well. So there was that little space, that area that Partey played that ball into only appeared when Stones come on the pitch. Because before that, Silva was sitting right back in there. And if you look up as a midfield player and you see all them players, you're not really going to play that ball. But he knew he could get it over Stones, loft it into that area. And the fact that the Marvel Avengers, I think they should have Marvel on the back of it now. Take out all the crap, just put in the Marvel sign. The fact that them three were there, fate. There's a lot of things happen in football because of fate. And I think it was written in the stars, but it was just that space just opened up. Kyle Walker got dragged out towards Martinelli. Normally he'd have been inside, maybe nudging Tomiyasu in the back on the first header. Havertz came in, had the awareness to just set it down to Martinelli. And I've got to say, Havertz down that middle, he looked
made a difference, didn't he? He made a difference.
Yeah, he's got a presence in there. He don't get drawn into running right the way out in the flanks, and he stays as an ever present in that. It's a bit like Giroud. Giroud sometimes didn't set the world on fire, but he was always there to battle the defenders. And if the defenders have been occupied, that means that they can't cover the fullbacks. So that kind of isolated Kyle Walker, and so that's why Kyle Walker went a bit tighter with Martinelli. And you could see little spaces opening up, and it all happened around I think it was it the 68th minute when the changes were made by Pep, and then we made our changes, and you just looked at the two teams, and the shape just completely changed around that area, and I just thought to myself, there's a big space there, and we hadn't, and I was saying for a lot to my co-commentator, like I was saying, why are we not playing the balls into the channels? Because Eddie made some serious runs in the first half. That some of them were in the channels on the wing, some of them were between the fullback and the central defender, and he didn't get the ball. We didn't once put the ball over the top really for him. But then this ball comes over, and the expectation and anticipation from everyone in the crowd, and when it took the deflection, and Aki, who I thought had a fantastic game. To be fair, he'd thrown himself in front of everything at the back. In front of those chances from Jesus, went at the far post. He was there for a block, and him and Diaz were solid. They played solid at the back, Man City central defenders. And then for him to get it in the face and for it to go in the near post, well, I nearly run up and down that East Upper, Kev, like back in the old days when we was training. I just wanted to go and celebrate. But but you could see it happening. You could see those spaces happening. It just needed someone to have the vision to play that ball in, and it is Thomas Partey. And I agree with you totally, Soph. He's got to be alongside Declan Rice, because Declan can do that job of reading and taking the ball off centre forward's feet and protection by himself, and Partey just gives us that forward-looking midfield player from that position.
But Dave, let me just add something, because I think you've described it, but I think the precision part of it, I think we need to discuss the precision part, because it was our fullback Tomiyasu who ends up running beyond Phil Foden, who was picking him up. Yeah. He ends up He ends up on the edge of the box. Perfect pass from Thomas Partey, and he's got the awareness, just like that photo, to head it to Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz then has the awareness, because he gets hit in the back, to hold his ground and then set it perfectly for obviously Martinelli running off the line and being able to hit it first time. That's the other thing. He can run off and hit it first time, and that's what kind of startled Manchester City's defence, because all of a sudden it was an opportunity, and they couldn't even get their bodies in the way because it just was coming straight at Aki. So, it hits him and it goes in, but it was such a well-worked move. I don't know what Tommy Arsenal was doing up there, but I'm so pleased he was up there. I can tell you that much.
How much last season did we see Xhaka get in those positions? Granit Xhaka was getting in. We'd see him hanging around at that far post and getting in the box as that extra left-sided midfield player. I know Tomiyasu was coming on as more of a defensive player, but it's something that they're encouraged to do. But it like I said, it's part of being a team and seeing those spaces,
recognizing space. Yeah,
the situation, appreciation for the players around you, and Havertz. That's what he does. He actually gets pushed around quite a lot, but he doesn't give the ball away very much. Unfortunately, his problem is at the moment that things that are rated in a game now, like assists and goals and, your XG being like 2.1 for the next 4 games and all that bullshit, that overtakes your contribution sometimes. The effort, the energy, the
appreciation of him.
Appreciation of what you do, and these kids, they all know what all the stats are, but when you're out there playing, you need players like him to do that, because if they don't, that goal never happens.
Let me ask you guys this then. Would you, because you're both raving about, you in particular, David, about Eddie Nketiah, and sometimes a player sees a player differently than, we fans do, but there's no doubt that he works hard. Do you think Kai Havertz, it's a lot for 65 million, but Kev and I were talking as well about just having players who have impact, the impactors, and then the finishers. It's like Tomiyasu and the Arsenal Avengers came on and were the finishers. And then you've got the impactors. Is Kai Havertz a finisher or an impactor, Super Kev? Do you see him as a striker? You played the position. Would you rather Eddie in that role, or would you rather Kai Havertz in that role? And is that his role? Did he excel yesterday because he played in that number 9 role?
I think it just depends. I think Kai Havertz, you can play him in that 8, or you could play him in the number 9 position. I think because he's got that type of game, as Dave says, he's got that type of game where he makes things look pretty easy when, the ball comes into him. It's difficult to get that ball down and then set it back, so Martinelli doesn't have to change his stride. He can just run onto it. That's one of the hardest things in football, because the game is going so fast that you've got to get that precision pass right. But many people won't even judge that. They won't even look at what he's done. So for me, I think, forget the price. We keep talking price. He's an Arsenal player now. Arsenal have paid the money. I think Kai Havertz could have started that game. I know Eddie made a lot of runs, Dave, but this is the issue with playing against Man City. Very rarely you're going to get balls over the top against Man City. Very rare. The key is you've got to hold it up when it comes up. It's got to stick. And Eddie made it stick at times, and there was times where he was running on and the ball was getting played short. You've got to be that guy, and that's why I believe in the Community Shield, we gave them as much problems as they could handle, because Kai Havertz done that in the Community Shield. So I just think it depends on who we play, Soph. Against the better teams, I think where you're not going to be able to release Eddie over the top, I think Kai Havertz could play. Obviously, Jesus is there. He can do both. But you asked me about Kai Havertz and Eddie. I think both could could do that. It just depends on the opposition.
David, what do you think about the comparison? Because we've had quite a few. Kai Havertz reminds some Arsenal fans of Alan Smith. Do you buy that?
No, I was
quick.
talking to Martin Keown before the game, and I said I actually made the comparison that he's not like Alan Smith, and I wish he was, because Alan Smith on his first touch always took it into his body and backed in. That's the way we was taught then. The amount of times I saw Kev doing an extra half hour with Pat Rice, receiving the ball and backing into the defender, so that the space in front of you is still open for the midfield. I think Kai Havertz does the opposite. I think he takes his first touch into the space. So then what he does is he brings their midfield players nearer to him, but he still gets the ball off. He still gets the ball off. So I think that's, everybody wants to see a forward that's like right on top of the defender's shoulder, spinning into the channels. He's not going to do that. I don't think Havertz is that kind of player, and I think that's because of the way he approaches the game. So from him and Alan Smith point of view, I don't get it. If you look at the way the two of them played, like Smudger was more about bringing the ball in, get it in control, and keeping his space in front of him. But I think again, it's a different game now because Alan Smith didn't have the mobile midfield in front of him that Arsenal playing with now. You know, they had me and John Jensen, to be fair, so that we was never.
I was there for that goal when it finally went in. My goodness. Go on. Finish up your comment, because there's another player I want to make sure that we talk about.
An impact player. You know, I think Havertz's quality isn't, and whether he's a midfielder or an attacker. I think the quality with Havertz is that he is able to understand what the manager requires and put that into practice when he goes on the pitch, whatever role is asked of him. Whereas some forwards, they can only come on and play one way. They can only do one thing, you know, and that makes them an impact. No, they can only come on and score a goal. That's all they can do. He can do more than that. He can take instruction and he can play part of a team. And it goes back to what I said at the beginning, that everybody knows that what they do is for the greater good, not for themselves.
Okay, so speaking about the greater good and not for themselves, a player who I think is so important to everything we do. We laud Saliba and we laud... well, we haven't got to him yet, but I wanted to talk, you touched on it very briefly when we talked about Benjamin not having Saka, but you mentioned Jesus. Kev, I thought his heart was going to burst on Sunday with the work rate and the effort that he put in. Can you please talk to me a little bit about Jesus? We often have said that he needs to score more goals, but his contribution on and off the ball just completely continues to amaze me. And he played with an extra edge and determination. He also, in the huddles, takes a lot of that team talk, doesn't he? But you could tell he was a man possessed in this match, and he wanted to beat his ex-team this time around with a massive point to prove. How important does he continue to be game on game, Super Kev?
He took it personal, Soph. I think the way Arsenal lost at Manchester City at the Etihad last season really hurt him, because he knows we're better than that. And even when he starts at number 9, he ends up wide solely because of his mentality, and he wants to get on the ball and he wants to make other people better. But he played his position perfectly on Sunday. He was a thorn in Manchester City's side all game. His work rate is phenomenal. But he causes havoc. Why? Because he takes up some positions and he uses his body so well. He's got such great close control that Manchester City, you could see that they're reluctant to go too close to him, because they know he could drop a shoulder, you know, do a Cruyff, and they'll pull him down, and it's a penalty. So they tread very carefully when Jesus is on the ball. For me, if Jesus stays fit to the end of the season, I keep saying this about our two centre-halves, but Jesus is so influential in what we do. And that was one of the reasons why I weren't too sure how we were going to do, because that's why Saka's so important. When Jesus plays up top, Saka then starts to get a bit more space, because Jesus goes wide and Saka can come in and there's more space. But I thought Jesus was immense, absolutely immense. Work rate, ability, headache for the opposition, taking responsibility. I think that's the most important words to say about him. He took responsibility for the team, put the team on his back at times, and drove down that right-hand side, give Garvidal as much problems as he could handle. In the end, they were doubling up and tripling up on Jesus because he's just a special talent. He really is. And yeah, do you know what? This wasn't the game where we were going to score 2, 3, 4 goals. But this was the game where he needed to turn up and be that guy, and he was.
David, can you talk to me a little bit, having been a midfielder? You know, when you see Jesus, there were times yesterday where he was in close to Raya, almost coming to pick up the ball. And a lot of the times there's the argument that he's not in the box enough, but maybe certain passages of play wouldn't happen if he wasn't close to Saliba and Gabriel picking up the ball. Maybe that was a bit of an anomaly yesterday, going that far deep because it was Manchester City. But as a midfielder, is that something that, you know, when you see your forward that far back on the pitch, you know, this off the ball kind of play that Mikel Arteta loves, modern day football. What is that like as a player when you see your forward that far back in a game, despite the fact that he's effective, like when he does it?
I think you've got to remember, yesterday he wasn't a forward; he was a right-sided midfield.
Right.
So you know, yesterday was different when you watched Arsenal because Saka, when he gets the ball, is left-footed. So he likes to. He'll always draw the player. They'll close the line off and they'll show him inside. So, you know, everything comes inside from Saka, but Jesus, he couldn't get down the outside because, like Kev said, they doubled up, trebled up. But what he did was he drew players out. But also, I think with Foden making those runs, Ben White was tucking in a little bit to close that space. And I think only once when they put the cross in from the left-hand side early on, did Jesus go to sleep for a second, and the ball got played inside of him, down in like sort of a reverse pass behind him, and he hadn't fulfilled his remit to pick up the runner or to cover that run. As a midfield player, as a central midfield player, Jorginho and Declan Rice depended on him coming back and picking up players around there because they had a job. They can't go from that central position and keep going out and closing fullbacks down. So if the opposition's fullback decides he's going to go, Jesus has got to come back with him and do his job. And so you can't complain that he's not up there on the right wing, ready to receive the ball, when he's just tracked someone 45 yards back to help out in the defence. And you know, no disrespect to any forwards out there, but there's a lot of forwards that won't do that. There's a lot of forwards that only go so far, you know, because they want to be playing up front and they want to be that person that's available when Raya gets the ball and he's standing there thinking, who the fuck do I throw it to? Because my right winger's standing 5 yards away from me. Yeah, but he's standing there for a reason, because he's just tracked their left back all the way down the pitch, because they're playing Man City. They're not playing against a side who are, you know, going to have their fullback still on the halfway line. And if that was the case, he'd probably still be up on the halfway line. But I think Kev hit the nail on the head. What he does is he does stuff unconditionally. It is what you have to do when you're asked to do that job in that team. You know, he don't want to be playing out on the right. I'm sure he don't. He likes being in the middle because he wants goals. All forwards want goals, you know, and he won't be he'll be the happiest he's ever been when he gets goals, but he's not unhappy when he doesn't. And yesterday at the far post there, he had players flying in front of him. There was a couple of times when I thought maybe you tried to walk it in a little bit. You should have just smashed it when on your first touch and stuff like that. But that's an individual preference. He knows in his head what he's doing. I'm not going to call him out. He's a much better centre forward than I ever could have dreamt of being. So, you know, I'll take that on the chin. But for me, he done his job coming back, and he wasn't a forward. He was a midfield player yesterday, and he done a midfield player's job. Excellent.
All right, Super Kev. Declan Rice was voted the player of the match by Arsenal fans. I actually think that it was such a complete performance, not only by him, Saliba, the whole team. You guys have said it. What is this? Who is he? What have we here on our hands with Declan Rice? Because my goodness, he feels like he's been at the Arsenal his entire career. Talk me through it, please.
So I'll tell you what, Soph. I'll tell you what he is. He's 105 million bargain. And I say that with a straight face. He's £105 million bargain, because against Manchester City, we always used to have a major problem when people start getting tired and they start breaking the lines. We couldn't get back at them when they were attacking our box. We just couldn't. Xhaka, for all his great play that he had in the end, he never had that recovery power and speed to get back and win balls. There was, I think everybody saw it. There was one particular moment where I think it was Nunes was running towards our box, and I don't know how he done it. Hills, you could probably tell me better. He's hooked his leg around the ball and hooked it round, and then passed it out, and we were on the attack. He done it all in one move.
Mate. Yeah. He come round a few weeks ago and he said, "Hills, can you help me out?" And I said, "I told you that do this, you'll look good on Sunday, and everyone will love it." And he took it on board, and fair play. He didn't give me no credit after the game, but no, I think what he does is, I think the first and foremost is coming to a side that are fully accepting, and he feels like he's home already. So that's helping him live his best life. But what he does is he looks at what other players are doing. He adjusts himself off of them, and he puts himself in a position where he can help other players if it don't work, if it don't go right. And I made a bit of a career out of like marking people and tracking runners and stuff like that. And quite often I didn't accept a pass, or I'd take it off the forward's foot on his first touch, and I felt, it looked really good. It didn't get the sort of credit it gets now, but it's a way of the game where you sacrifice a little bit of your game. You don't see him offering himself all the time for passes. He's happy for people to play football around him. But what he's always like a meerkat. He's always like, right, where's the danger? If I'm going to move 3 yards to the left here, because if Zinchenko fucks up this pass into his man, I can still get to the player that's advanced on Zinchenko. And when it does fuck up, he's there and he cleans up, comes out, and it makes you look fantastic. And it's all up here for him. And that's, I think that is why he looks like he's lording it, because he knows what's going on. He's like the caretaker in there. He's just going around, mopping up the spillages, and every now and again, playing a wicked pass, he makes good decisions. He don't take no risks. He don't take no risks at all. If it's going backwards and that's the only pass on, he's passing it backwards. If the square is the only pass on, it's going square, but it's getting there. And he's a very good decision maker and an excellent reader of danger. And when you can read danger, you take the ball off of people's toes, and you're the one that ends up with the ball in space. So when, for instance, if I was marking Roy Keane, he goes on a third man run. I read it, I cut the ball out, Roy don't get it, it drops down in front of me. Roy's 5 yards behind. Now I've got time to pass it. That didn't happen very often, because most of the time Roy Keane got the ball behind me and done some damage, because he was a fantastic player. But with Rice, he gets himself in the positions where as soon as he makes that contribution, it's to his benefit, because the player he's marking has gone on a run. And like we saw with that slide, he gets that ball and he's just got the awareness. All he does is, as he gets up, just flicks it in front of him to one of the midfield players. But just that one act rather than get up, try and run 5 yards with it and take someone on and lose it, by doing that simple little thing, makes him look 100 times better. And that's what he does well.
Hills, I'll tell you, I'll ask the chat, because a lot of people maybe weren't sure how good Declan Rice was or is. Are you surprised how good he is? Is the chat surprised how good Declan Rice is? Because you know what? I think he's got levels to go in this side. I really do. This is just him shaking off West Ham.
He's just
he's going to get much better.
David, I asked Super Kev at the end of last season if you could have Jude Bellingham or Declan Rice. He didn't even stutter when he said Declan Rice. I mean, both are having a sensational season. What Bellingham is doing at Real Madrid is unreal.
Incredible.
But it feels like he's not the only player. I said to Kev last week, it feels like we were still in second gear, like we really haven't even started yet. And I'll get these comments up for you. I had high hopes for Declan, but this is at the top end expectations. Udi says, no surprise, he was amazing at West Ham. The writing was on the wall. He's a mixture of Busquets and Gattuso without the rough aspect, of course. Yes, and still so young. Rice can only get better. Never doubted Mikel's choice. I mean, I think the fact, David, that he chose Arsenal, I think you alluded to that a little bit in a sense that, you know, he feels so welcomed. But I don't know, as ex-players, when you choose a club, I guess, you know, he's in the place that he wants to be. And that makes a massive difference. But I don't know. I don't like this continual conversation about should he be captain, because I think Odegaard's a great captain. But the ceiling, and you're seeing it from all the guys in chat, they're absolutely loving him already.
Declan Rice will be Arsenal's captain in the future, but he don't need to be captain now. He's just got into the side. Arsenal have got a decent captain who's just come into his own, who's just matured into the captaincy. They don't need to take that off Odegaard. Odegaard does a fantastic job, and he'll be there for a few years. And Rice will be when Rice is ready. Like you just said, Rice went to the club that he wanted to go to. But at 100 million, it is your choice. Remember that. You know, you've got a choice of all the clubs. You talk to the players you know at them clubs. He's got friends who play for the club and he'd be away with England with them, and he'd be chatting to them saying, "What's it like?" And if you've got people like Saka, who is the most humble, honest person, you know, he ain't gonna sell you no shit. He ain't gonna say, "Oh, come here, it's brilliant. Yeah, money's great. We all get great cars, live in big houses." He could have that anywhere he went. So what he's asked is, what is it going to be like there for me? You know, how am I going to be treated? And Saka would have given him the right answer. So would Ramsdale, and so would Ben White have. And he'd have spoke to Martinelli, because these players now, they all know each other. All these young lads all know it, and they'd have all been saying, "Come here, mate. Come here. You will love it. You will bring so much to our side. We need you here.
And you'll improve."
Yeah, and he wouldn't have got that from. I don't think he'd have got that from Man U players. I don't think they'd have took the time out to speak to him, half of them. Fernandes ain't phoning nobody, because, you know, he can have an argument. You know what I mean? Helping no one else. He picked the right club at the right time with the right players, and that was right for himself. But I agree with Kev. This is just the first level. When he feels like he's ready to step up to the next bit, I think in his mind he will focus and he will make additions to his game to improve. But he won't mess things up. He'll do it when he wants to.
Super Kev, do we have to win one of the big ones in order to keep this exciting young squad together? A couple seasons ago, we said that, you know, Saka, and David just talked about hanging out with, you know, players for England and all that kind of stuff. And we were worried that if we weren't challenging or competitive, you know, a player like Saka, you know, might leave eventually. what needs to happen in modern day football? It's so hard to keep a team together. How long can we keep this lot together?
You got to win, and you got to win as a group. There's a lot of investment gone into these youngsters now. Soph, everyone's getting new contracts. Ben White's next to get a new contract. So they're keeping the nucleus of this squad together. Yeah, there might be a few more bits that we need. I think top end of the pitch. I think that's when we add a bit more to the top end of the pitch, that's when everything's going to click into place. But I think it's all about timing. But we have to win. We have to win silverware. So that is the name of the game. Declan Rice has not come to Arsenal to be an also-ran. Bukayo Saka has not signed his new deal and pledged his future without the prospect of winning the big trophies. Odegaard the same. All these guys. Saliba the same. These guys want to be winning leagues and Champions Leagues. That's the pinnacle. That is the pinnacle that they're going to want. And it's a hard task, but you've just beat the treble winners as a young group. So from the Community Shield to the home game, and you haven't beat them in 12 games, and now you beat them again at home. Now the confidence should start flowing. It's going to be interesting what happens after the international break, because I think there's a few Arsenal players who are not playing for their respective countries. So Chelsea away is next for us. Obviously, another London derby, another big game. That's another one we have to turn up for. It's so much harder for London teams to win it, Soph, because there's so many derbies.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. Okay. The elephant in the room, we left it to the very end, as Super Kev suggested. You're on Sky Sports, David, you were there. I'm just going to leave it to you guys. Kev, the referee.
Well, first part I'm going to say is it comes out, we find out that the referee and a group of a referee team were refereeing out in the UAE for some of the UAE clubs, which is obviously got the fingerprint of the hierarchy at Manchester City. That was last week or the week before. Now, when you look at the game, it's a bad look to start with. Let's have it right. It's a bad look to start with. So he shouldn't have been on our game. Fair enough. He gets the job. He's one of the most respected referees. Okay, no problem. Watching the game and Kovacic's tackle on Martin Odegaard, I've probably seen it about 100 times. That is a red card. No danger. That is a red card. It's not. His foot isn't there. His foot is too high up the ankle. He gives him, VAR gets involved, only gives him a yellow card. Okay. Let's get on with it. Doesn't want to spoil the game. No problem. 6 minutes, 10 seconds later, Kovacic tackles Declan Rice, doesn't get the ball, gets him right on the ankle, and the referee's first, when it pans to the referee, the first thing he's doing is that. That's the first thing he's doing. No. Why is he doing that? Why is he doing that? Why? Because he doesn't want to send Kovacic off, because he doesn't want to make a big decision. Why? I don't know whether it's because he was out in the UAE or whatever a few weeks before. I don't know. But you know what I do know? I know that it stinks.
Kev,
That's what I do know.
Kev, he don't want to give the 10 grand back and the Rolex. That's why.
It stinks, Ills. To me, it stinks.
Yeah.
That is a red card all day long. And don't forget, this is the same referee who
The
sent
double Martinelli.
Martinelli off
Yeah.
in, what was it? In a
card.
space of 7 to 10 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
But from the throw come in and he's pushed the lad and then he's fouled the guy there was 7 seconds. He was quick to take one yellow card out from point back and then take the red card out and send him off.
Was Merson right to have a go on Sky, Kev?
So here we go, Soph. I'm so pleased you set me up nicely. So Merce says, why not use common sense? And
Ooh.
Mike Dean says, what does he say? We always stick to the law of the game. We cannot go off cuff. We've got to stick to the laws of the game. And let's be honest, Mike Dean was a bit disrespectful to Merce, I thought, saying to him, "Oh, you don't know the rules and regulations of the game. You don't know the laws." Well, Mike Dean, what's the laws in this? Because your referee, Mike Oliver, took it upon himself to go with what he interpreted and what he wants, because that wasn't the law of the game. The law of the game said he gets sent off. That's what the law says. So how does it work then? And I bet you Mike Dean says nothing about it. He says nothing. He'll go and even Dermot Gallagher had to admit the second challenge was a red card. He has to go. He's a lucky boy. I'm sick and tired of this lucky boy BS. Rubbish. Because I bet you this much, if Saliba would have hit Haaland like that, I guarantee you it's a red card to start with. Or if he hits him a second time like that, I guarantee he gets sent off. Do you remember when Gabriel got sent off for a tackle on Jesus a few seasons ago? Again, this privilege isn't allowed for Arsenal players, and it stinks to me. So it stinks.
Why haven't we asked for the audio yet? I mean, I agree with Fergus from Guns and Yellow Ribbons, who's in the house as well, David, saying that it felt like Mike Dean was kind of saying to him, "Oh, shut up. What do you know?
Yeah.
You just played the game. You don't know the rules." It was very disrespectful. And I don't blame Merce for going supersonic on him.
No, I try not to get involved on X anymore because, I think it's a way of controlling us. But I do go on there, I do dip in and dip out. But yeah, I think in fairness, the conversation, if I remember rightly, was about whether or not ex-player should be in the VAR team. And that's what the comment from Mike Dean was about, saying that why would you be in the VAR team? You don't know the rules. Mm-hmm. And Merce then obviously had every right to kick off, because I think Mike Dean's on a panel of footballers and he's an ex-referee. So why can't an ex-footballer be on a panel of referees? If he can pick up £1,000 for going on Sky, why can't a footballer have his opinion and go on? Because I think it would bring that side of things. And I think that's what Merce was trying to say. You've never played football, mate. You don't know. We as footballers can see whether there's intent in a challenge. We can see with the Jones tackle when he got sent off for Liverpool, with the referee only being shown that still. If you'd have been shown as an ex-player, I watched it several times. When he realised he's going to hit the player in the leg high, he puts his weight on his left leg and pulls out of that challenge, right? If Kovacic didn't do that, he followed through and pushed through both of them tackles. Mm-hmm. I heard Ryan Mowbray on Match of the Day say, right at the beginning, I couldn't believe it. He said that Declan Rice is as much to blame because he kicked into Kovacic. Come on, are you kidding me? There is an agenda with some of these people, and referees cannot have an agenda. There can be none. They have to be completely fair down the middle. And there are reasons why Michael Oliver did not make that decision. I know it. Kev knows it. You know it. I'm trying to go whatever side of the screen there. Look, and there's something's gone off in his head. Now, whether he's been influenced by, I've done a job for them last week, and like Mr. Owl, whatever, give me this and this, and they give me that, and I've got links with City and that, and it'll affect this work and that work, and I don't really want to upset the game, and it's too early. That don't matter. It was 2 challenges that were both punishable. The first one, definitely an amber. We've talked about it, and definitely an amber, if not a red. So that tells the referee that the next challenge goes in. If it's near the mark, he's got to go. The next challenge was almost in the next phase of play. The player's still in the mindset of kicking people. That referee has an obligation to deal with it, and he should have done it by the rules. And like Mike Dean's saying, players don't know the rules. Well, it's obvious that some of the refs don't know the rules as well, because they're not playing by them. There's some sort of agenda in there. I actually went on Twitter and made a comment at this, and I had someone get back to me saying players don't know how to control their passion, but referees can control their passion. And I said, well, what's that passion got to do with a referee's game? Referees are not out there to show passion and to show that they can control it. They're to be calm, collected, and play by the rules.
And officiate.
I don't want to say seen but not heard, but you take into account what rugby referees do and the respect that they have and how they control those situations when men's passion, they are knocking 7 bells of shit out of each other, and they get them to stop within a second and understand that they are playing by the rules of the game, and you cannot do that. And the players straight away go, calm down. Referees in the Premier League, I'm not saying all referees, this is not about grassroots, nothing like that, but they are too big for their boots, some of them, and their egos get in front of them. And I think their egos are driven by their marketability now, how they can get into positions of empowerment and be the big person. And I don't think that they promote their trade well.
Yeah, but
I think that they are causing the problems for the PGMOL or whatever it is. By behaviour.
Do you think we're talking about professional referees of the Premier League? Do you think they should be moonlighting, going out to the UAE?
No way.
To referee and do VAR for games out there. When they're full-time professional referees in the Premier League. So anything like this, what's gone on, could get levied against them.
No, they should stay there.
It's all motivated by personal gain. They are not going out there for anything other than to have a few days out in Dubai or whatever in the best hotel under the hands of the people that can give them loads of stuff, give them nice wedge, look after themselves, maybe take their family for 3 or 4 days. I did it as a footballer when I finished, going on masters things. I enjoyed it. I loved it, right? And some of these Premier League referees came out and run them tournaments with us, right? And I'll tell you this now. They all acted like they was footballers. Everyone came out there would have all the Gucci on, the bling. They'd be out with me, Don Hutchinson, Phil Babb, drinking in the bars, living like they're the stars. No, the game's not about you, mate. The game's never been about referees. People don't go and watch a game to remember a referee. I don't care who the referee is, as long as he referees the game fairly and properly, right? People go and see the players, the teams, and to be with their like-minded fans on a day out that makes their week. That's why people go to football matches. And they're the only people they want to remember.
Yeah, I think that the celebrity of referee started with Kalina, but although he's been a great referee, don't get me wrong, but then Clattenburg and that era of referee. Sorry, go on, David.
No, it's not just, I don't think it's any referees it's outside of the Premier League, none, right? I don't think so. But I think there's in the top leagues in some of the world, they run around like little policemen thinking that they can run the rule over these multi-million-pound footballers and do this and do that, and they can't give me the big I am and all that. No one's trying to give the referees the big I am. Just referee the game properly, do your job, and then fuck off and go home. Because you're not a footballer. The game's not about you, but it's become about them, and they're living their dream.
It's every week, isn't it?
They're big money. They're living in big houses, driving big motors, and they're just referees. And I'm not trying to take away from what they do in the game, but their job is to play the game by the rules and keep that game moving and flowing, and be part of it just up until that. But nothing else. Nothing else. No one's going to remember referees in 10 years. I can't even remember referees that refereed my game, apart from Uriah Rennie, who was an absolute arsehole. Because I remember playing in the game with Mark Waters. I'll tell you this now. Played in the game with Mark Waters, and Mark Waters actually called Uriah Rennie a racist because of the way he was treating Mark Waters. Right?
Wow.
Mark Waters said, I won't tell you what Mark Waters called him, but there's a word for him, and it's a kind of fruit with a really hard shell.
Well, yeah, we'll leave it. We'll leave that one right there.
That was his ego, though, because he had an agent. He actually said to Mark Waters, "I ain't talking to you." And he come up to him after the game, give him a card. He went, "If you've got a problem, speak to my agent." I was playing in the first division. Do you know what I mean? Who does he think? Who do these referees think it is? It started way back then.
Where does it end, Kev? How does this stop? Why isn't anyone taking accountability and responsibility for this? As a player goes in, studs up, he gets a 3-5 game ban. A player bets on a game, he gets banished from the game for 6 months. A referee could cost a team a title or relegation, and he still prances around and gets like, okay, you're not going to do this game, but he's back the following week. When is this madness going to end in the league that is the most lucrative in the world?
It stops when people get serious and want to be accountable. So that's the bottom line. Everybody has to be accountable, because you've got the best league in the world, but the officiating and the VAR is the worst in the world. What sense? That makes no sense. And you know what? We discussed VAR and referees from the start, and we said, why ain't they accountable to have it mic'd up like rugby? And I can only see one reason why. Because there's skullduggery going on. Now, they might say, we just don't want the glare of the media, But why not? If you're doing things right, why wouldn't you want the glare of everybody to hear the audio and stuff? If it's all above board, why wouldn't you?
I agree with that. I agree with that, Kev.
So again, Sophie, if you have the technology to get things right, and it's harder to actually get things wrong, and you still get things wrong, something is not right. And until there's accountability, Sophie, week after week after week, we're talking about referees and VAR. Why? Yeah. Because they're never accountable anymore. It's always, oh, he made a mistake, and there was pressure, and there was this. There's no pressure on them. Just do your job and get it right.
The other thing too, guys, by the way, there's still 700 of you in live chat. We've been going for an hour and 40, and it feels like half an hour. So we are going to have to close the show eventually. Do you remember Gunnar Russ? He's been going to the Arsenal for a long time. Probably saw you both have your debuts. Well, I know he did. He was a guest on the show. And do you remember, Kev, where we talked about how many referees are are based in the north or come from the north? I mean, it's just little things like that, sometimes they call fans crazy for thinking like this. But David, the more and more and more that we are moving forward, the more and more fans don't sound like crazies, and they do have a rationale and a reason. And why are they afraid of getting ex-players into the booth and being part of it? And you both have made it clear. Right, so here's what we're going to do. We could sit here all night because this lot aren't going anywhere. But we're not going to do that. What have I not asked you, David, about the Arsenal versus Manchester City or anything that you want to share with the squaddies? And don't you just hate the timing of this international break?
Yeah, Arsenal obviously on a run. But what I hated most about the game was the snack at half time in the press lounge was some and I needed something more than that. And I had to go all the way down 400 steps to get it because I was sitting right at the back. That was the only thing I didn't like about the game. The game was fantastic. I even stayed in the car park a bit longer and met Ian Wright. So for me, it was a perfect day. Yeah, that's my take on Sunday. Nothing I really hated, other than the fact that maybe, in all seriousness, going back to the Raya situation, when this rotation was first talked about with Arteta, he's not rotated yet. What's going on? he ain't half time like he said he might. He did say a few things and it happened, and I feel sorry when I see Ramsdale on the monitor just sitting there like that, you know, scratching his head, and I know he wants to be a part of it, so I want to know when that's happening. But that's being mega picky and just trying to finish a bit of a brighter note than referees.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Super Kev will make sure that happens too. Super Kev, it was a glorious day for the Gunners, the players. We saw scenes from all over the world when that goal went in. I don't care if it was deflected. I'll take 38 of those goals and win the title. I'll give zero fucks about that. Super Kev, what have I not asked you tonight?
I think, have Arsenal found the blueprint at home to defend? Because it's our first clean sheet at home for a long time, especially against a big boy. And there's no bigger than Man City. Kept the clean sheet and we look comfortable. Apart from, like I said, the first 20, 25 minutes where I think there was a little bit of nerves there as well, misplaced passes, etc. But once we settled down, you know, we bossed it. Have we now got the blueprint at home? We seem to have it away. Do we have the blueprint at home, Soph, to make sure to propel us to where we want to get to? Where we don't take too many chances in defence, but we have the team who can go up the other end and get our noses in front, and we could shut up the shop.
I absolutely loved this performance as a fan. I love sexy football and I love champagne football. And I've heard a lot of people talk about what a crap game it was. And, you know, maybe I enjoyed watching Italian football back in the day. I love watching Maldini and Baresi and those Milan teams play. And there was something very Italian-esque about this. It felt like a chess match. And every single time you thought someone was going to make a move, someone countered the move. And I felt as I was watching the game, I was learning more about the game as well. And, you know, I thought Mikel Arteta absolutely smashed it against Pep Guardiola. And one of the things that I haven't asked you, because I'm tired of hearing about it, and hopefully it puts it a little bit to rest because Mikel Arteta is his own man, is this continual comparison between the two just because he was his assistant. I don't think you get that much with any other manager and a former assistant. And for me as a fan, even though it wasn't goals galore, even though there was not a lot of sexy stuff to it, I don't think I've been so satisfied as a fan, especially in that second half, watching a match like that. And it was just, you know, one of my favorite sayings is winning ugly is beautiful sometimes. And for me, it was really a beautiful day for the beautiful game. And I'm going to hand it over to Super Kev to close the show for us. And David, I text him all the time. Mostly he's on holiday in South Africa whenever I text him, by the way. But the listeners absolutely love it when you and Kev get together and they got a slice of the Tuesday-ish Club on a Monday. Thank you so much for coming on. And I'm sure Super Kev and you will have a quick exchange before Kev closed the show. But thank you. Just absolutely brilliant. I enjoyed being a fan tonight versus a broadcaster, just listening to the two of you talk about football.
Well, we found out Hills likes the holiday in South Africa. my old brother down there. I've known this young man. Oh, he's older than me by a few months. I've known him virtually all my life. We played against each other as boys. And it's always a pleasure to play with my brother on here. Come on, speak it. It's like we're back in the dressing room, as Sophie always says, you know, take us beyond the white lines into the dressing room. And it feels like a dressing room feel, which is always great. Got to say thanks, Ills, for coming on. I know the internet was messing up downstairs, but you made it work, as you always did in midfield, bud. Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it. Soph, as always, hostess with the mostest. Great questions, great chat. And I don't think we've ever had a quicker 1 hour 45 minutes in Highbury Squad history. This has absolutely flown by. And as always, squaddies, got to say big up and thanks for all of you joining us and all of you who's going to listen to this this podcast. It is a special one, Tuesday's Club on a Monday Madness. So we have beaten City. We have bridged that next step. We do know we can improve, which is another massive opportunity for us. And you know what? We've done it without Mikel Saka. We've done it without Partey starting. We've done it without Martinelli starting. But we got over the line. So, as I always say, squaddies, you make sure you tell your loved ones that you love them. Do not leave it for tomorrow. Tell them today and tell them again tomorrow. From Squad Central to you, we always say it, as you will and know. Squaddies, we love you, and at ease, squaddies. At ease.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.